Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope you are very well at home. You are staying within your house boundaries and also you are studying because students' time is very precious and it won't return. Make the most of it right now. So students, I hope that you have studied what we have discussed within our classes. We have discussed about digital footprints. We have discussed about net and communication etiquettes. We have also talked what are data breaches and how we can protect our data. We have talked about intellectual property rights, that is the brainchild of an artistic mind, and what is plagiarism. Another step towards protection of data is licensing and copyrights. So let us see what is this. So the term copyright says that it is used to suggest who owns a particular intellectual property. So if suppose you are a very good software developer, you have created a software of your own. This software is used for people for social communication, or you may say it is a social media platform. So now you want the platform to be used, you want that software to be used, but then you want it to be used under certain conditions. So firstly, you will require that the platform will be, or the software that you have just developed should be named, should be put against your name. So for such things, you will go to the concept of copyright. So copyright will put on the name against that software that this particular application, this particular idea belongs to this party or you. Now comes the topic of licensing. So for understanding the fact that if you have developed a social media platform, you want people to use it and you want third parties to use it so that you can somewhere go and monetize that particular software. This is by and large the basic idea behind almost all softwares. Very few softwares are like not focused on the concept of monetization. Other than that, most of them are concerned on the topic of monetization. So when it comes to licensing, it is a legal term and it is used to describe the conditions under which people are allowed to use copyrighted material. So if you have got it copyrighted and I want to use it, I will have to buy license or I will have to obey to certain conditions which are mentioned in your licensing documents which you have provided to me. Licensings may vary from the party to party. My type of license that you have provided me may vary with another license you have provided to some other party. Each licensing will may have different types of freedoms associated with it. So licensings may vary from party to party. They may also include the concepts of monetary uh, structures, that how much money needs to be paid, when it shall be paid, what all is available within this, how all you can use this particular software, can you use it for monetizing further, okay, can you sell the licensing, all these things will be restricted or will be mentioned on the topic of licensing. Over here they have given an example of house and its deed to show you the concept of licensing. But I will rather request you to come up with your very own example and make that example a technology based example. The next topic of R is free and open source software. So the word free is pretty much understandable. You will also be understanding the words open, but open source is something that you should know. When we say open source, it means that the software is having its source code available with it. What is a source code? Well, in programming languages, source code is a text file which is there for any particular software, or suppose you have developed a particular application. So you must have written some amount of code to define its functionality. That code is called as the source code of the application. Whether you allow your source code to be available on the internet with the application or whether you keep it to yourself is altogether the decision of a particular software developer. It is upon him or her whether they want to make their software open source or proprietary. Other than open source and proprietary, there are also a few types of softwares. Let us discuss about them first. So the first type of software that we should discuss is freeware, the very common type and the most used type of all of them. Freewares, what are they? The softwares are free of cost. So there will be no cost. You can always download them, but you will not get any source code with them. So what all code was utilized to make this software is not available. For an example, Google Chrome. People generally confuse this with an open source software. No, it is not. Chromium is an open source software. Google Chrome is not an open source software. How are Chromium and Google Chrome interrelated? Go search it out for yourself. It will be a good learning example for you guys. And you will also get to know how people monetize open source software for their own benefits. The next concept is of shareware. So what is a shareware? It is a software that is distributed free of cost on a trial basis. It will not be available for you throughout your life just because you wish to have this software. If you want to use this software after a certain period of time, you will have to go for paying some amount of premium money to the company. Sometimes softwares with trial versions or demo versions where premium features are not allowed are also included in this category. Wondershare Filmora is an example for this. So many people would debate that Wondershare Filmora is an example of shareware, although it is not suggested because shareware generally says that the software is free for use, and to use it after a certain period of time you will have to pay an amount, although the demo version of Wondershare Filmora is not working like this, and hence we have just kept it here as an example because we wish to tell you something about it. But I will still suggest that you go with the first two examples if you are writing or suggesting an example of shareware. The next topic we have is the open source software topic, which is a very important topic. People with when they move out of graduation, sometimes even they are confused with the topic of open source softwares because when you move into graduation, people will think that you already know about this topic and it will be very silly of them to reiterate it for you. Although many of the people who are going through graduation may not even have heard about it. So what is an open source software? It is a software which is available to the user with its source code. So what all will the user gets over here? The user will get the source code as we have said. So if you are downloading an open source software, you will be getting the source code of that particular open source software. What else will you have? You will have the permissions to modify the source code. Yes, people, you have the permissions and you can modify it. You can send it back to the owners of the software. They can see if the particular suggestions that you have made are viable, if they are feasible, and if yes, they will integrate it into a new version and you will get credits for it. This is the very reason why many freelancers prefer using open source software, because this not only gives them the hands-on experience with software, this will also give them an opportunity to work on a software which is there running around the globe and people are using it. So they will be coming to a platform, or this will help them come to a platform which is there for there available for people, and they will be there will be ample exposure for these people. So you will see freelancers going after open source software very often. The third point that the users get over here is redistribution of the software after making changes. So the users can redistribute the software. As a normal user, if you are not a technology geek kind of person, you can always use the software. There's no harm in knowing these points, but the source code will not be of any use to you because you are not a technology geek. You do not understand computer programming language and things like this, and you are not even interested. You are just using the software because people say that this is an open source software and it is good to use OSS. But if you are a user who can also program and do computer programming, then this is the kind of software you should go after. So there are three freedoms. What is not available with open source software? Well, the open source softwares may or may not be free of cost. Remember, they can be having, or they may be some charges which may be associated with an open source software. So be very careful while giving the definitions of open source software. A very simple mistake or a very common mistake that students often do is they just write down that open source software are free of cost. No, students, they are not free of cost. They may or may not be free of cost. Remember this point very well. There are ample examples of open source softwares that have been written over here. So yes, Perl, PHP, Python, everything is open source software. FOSS, free and open source software. Okay, so the word free over here says that it is free of cost, although there are some deviations from this term, and there are a few people who come up with the definition of FLOSS, which is free libre open source software, where the word free is not associated with the freedom of money or free availability without money. Rather, they are saying that they are providing freedom to source code, and hence they have developed a new category as FLOSS. Although in general at our level, FLOSS and FOSS are pretty much the same, they do not have many major differences. There are a few opinions about here by some renowned people, and you can always go over here and go through this philosophy what FLOSS and FOSS is. There is no concrete borderline which segregates both of these softwares as of now. So for you people, if even if FLOSS comes in exam as a definition has been asked to you, then you can always go and just write the very same definition that you would like for FOSS. The last topic that we have over here is proprietary softwares. What are these? Well, these are the most secure ones. Why will I say the term secure? Because the source code is not available. For some application, you do not want your source code to be available. You want it to be kept very segregated or secret to a very few people. You do not want to expose your source code. Why is it so? Because if people know your source code, they may try and figure out some vulnerabilities in your software, and from there on, your your software will be vulnerable. Although all softwares have some vulnerability, but if you are trying and putting things in a uh, in a banking domain, say for example, a banking domain, you do not want softwares to be open source softwares, because then your encryption mechanism and all those things will be laid in a plain text to the viewers. Although your customers may not be wishing the same, they would rather require a very secure and private experience. So, proprietary software will be used in such a case. And another example of proprietary software which you guys must be using now and then is Microsoft Word. Microsoft Office package is entirely a proprietary software package. The open source counterpart of it is openoffice.org, and hence it is rather suggested that instead of going for Microsoft Word, people should go and use uh, OpenOffice.org. But because it is so much convenient and it has been there and it has been put into us right from the very beginning, right from our very tender ages, that we are using Microsoft Word as a software, people do not go after these open source options. Hence, they have, they have the proprietary softwares have always dominated the markets. There's another reason for it. You know that technology is an ever evolutionary term. So, with as the time passes on, technology will keep on changing. So, what happens with it is, a few years back, Windows 7 was the new thing. Then came Windows 8, then came 8.1, then came Windows 10, and now even new versions of Windows 10 have been released this month only, in the month of May. So, because technology is an evolutionary process, and for an open source software, things will only evolve if the developers are working continuously with the particular project. With every new advent of technology, you may not be having that new advent of or you may not be having a new version of that particular open source software, because people working as open source softwares are generally on open source softwares are generally freelancers, and they may be having multiple projects. Although if you have a company which develops proprietary softwares, you guys have nothing else to do. You are here that for every new version of a particular operating system, you will be coming up with a new version of your application. This is how you will monetize your application, and you will ask people to be there with your application. Hence, proprietary softwares are also beneficiary when you want to be staying on regular updates, when you wish that whatever you are doing remains relatable. There are regular updates to the software. Each and every security feature is looked into, and hence there are lesser chances of being dominated by a hacker, or rather, I should say, a cracker. So, this is all that we have for today. If you have any doubts, please ping me on my mail ID. You guys know my mail ID. If you don't, this is the mail ID you should be pinging to. Let me know if there is something that you wish to convey. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day, everyone.